I just want to be yawning. Wish I could stay in bed. I'm a big fan of the daydream. Take my hand, so we can do it again. Do it again. Take my hand, 'cause I don't wanna be friends. Wanna be friends. In my dreams, in my dreams, in my dreams, you are.
Hello there, divine loving greetings. It's me, Alura. Welcome back to Spiritually Awkward. Divine loving greetings. It's me, Alura. Welcome back to yet another episode of Spiritually Awkward. So I think we have a large compilation of questions for topics for the show to last us a few months in. If you still have questions and you want to mail them in, then please feel free. My email is at the end of these videos, as well as additional links. And I just want to say thank you to all of you that put your trust in me as a spiritual mentor to even come to me to ask me. It is my honor and my utmost pleasure. So today we have a question, and this is from Gage, who is from Saint-Tropez in France. And he asks, Alura, I've heard many of your spiritual experiences, but how did it all start? Can you give me some details about your first experiences? Okay, so thank you very much for writing in, Gage, and I think that's a wonderful question that maybe others have had throughout time. This started for me around the age of 3. I noticed that I was starting to already feel ultra sensitive around certain people. Some people made me feel really negative, some enhanced feelings of fear, others I felt really comfortable with right away. And then I started feeling shifts of emotions and vibrations in atmospheres. If we went to the store, if we went to somebody's house, I definitely felt when something wasn't right, and I was very aware, like probably had the awareness of an older child versus just a 3-year-old toddler. And I remembered, my mother had some issues with her father at the time, and this was the guy that I was telling everybody that was a Freemason, and he was into demonology and also paranormal investigations. And I remember just like when he did come around, they were very secretive in their discussions because they didn't believe, that children should be in the same room when adults were talking. But I could always feel something, that awareness would just perk up. And I remembered my mother always kind of looking over because she knew that I knew when there was a discussion that was upsetting her, or perhaps the discussion was, heated. Regardless, I would pick up on it, and I would always somehow try to intervene and say, hey, look, Grandpop, you're upsetting my mother. And he would say, well, how do you know you're supposed to be in the other room? And I very well was, but I could feel it from the other room, no matter how quiet they were talking. That vibration, that signature of energy would just come to me, and it would let me know, hey, wait a minute, Mom's, uncomfortable, or Mom's in trouble. Because he was not a very nice man who often argued with her. So it started there, being empathic and just reading the signatures of energy from other people, and then also, the environment. But really facing spirit, it happened around that same age, probably later on that year, because everything just kind of hit me all at once. It was a very hard year for me as a child. I don't want to say that it was traumatizing, but I could probably put it in that category. It was scary. It really was. I'm feeling all these things that I don't really understand, but I just kind of follow through with. Ends up being right. In addition to out-of-body experiences, that is frightening enough for any child. You don't know what's going on. You know that you're not where you're supposed to be. The scenery is very strange. You can't reach your parents, and you feel, this feeling of vertigo and this lack of control over your body. So that was going on too. And then, like I said, later on that year, I had always been a lonely child. I never really had any friends. My mother wasn't the type of woman to want to go and connect with other parents and be like the, parent, teacher, administrative parent. She wasn't into that. She was a loner too. I think that was from her upbringing. And so I would sit in my room, just play with my little dolls, and my father taught me how to pray and to, kind of interpret the pictures of the children's Bible. And I had gone in there to play with my dolls, and I remember that my cat had just had kittens, and I kept kind of, messing with the kittens and pulling them from their hiding spot and like holding them and loving them. And it was later in the evening, the sun wasn't up anymore, and I kept seeing these sparks of light, and they were really bright. They were flashing kind of like out of the corner of my eye as I sat on the floor playing. My father had made me a refrigerator box house. When you get the huge refrigerator boxes and you cut the little door out and it's just big enough for like a little tiny toddler. He decorated it with crayons and markers with like curtains and all that cute stuff. And I was sitting on the floor and I saw the lights, and I went to get up to go in the cardboard box house, the little playhouse. And it just kept getting more intense, so I couldn't help but just to like look right at it. And I saw that as there were these flashes of sparkling energy in those particles, the light around them started getting real bright, and it got brighter and brighter until like I thought I was blind, and I got stunned, and it took my breath away, and I just froze. And as I kept looking, within that light, somebody came forward out the center of that light, and they had just the kindest, loving personality. There was so much love that it was nothing like this world. Like when I try to compare it, I'm sorry, I get like very emotional in these videos, but when you look at how humans are, even in their kindness, there's kindness, and then there is divine kindness. And I remembered sitting there just in awe, looking at this figure glowing, and you can't even say glowing like the sun, because the sun is like a golden yellow reddish type of ray. You stare at it too long, you get dark spots. This wasn't like that at all. It was like being somewhere else at the same time in the tunnel of just pure white light, with somebody standing in the center that you couldn't even see their features, but you could feel that love just coming right off of them, and that loving kindness that you'll never experience here. And I remember hearing a name that I didn't remember at the time, but now I know is my spiritual name, Alura. And they kept calling it, and I just connected with it at the moment. I said, here I am, and I listened, and that's when I got like this very, very long lecture, because I wasn't talking in return. I wasn't asking questions. I was just listening, and they were telling me things, that were to come in my life, such as different things I was going to have to face, my mission of what I was here to do, and how they wanted me to be throughout my life. And then it just left. And I remember just sitting there for like a good 20 minutes in shock. And I was shaking a little bit. I remembered that because it felt like I was really cold, because you know how you'll tremble when you're cold? It felt like that, but I wasn't cold. And I got up after I finally could, and I remembered going to my father, because I, for some reason, didn't feel that my mom was going to believe me. And I told her, and I told him, and I think she was there in the room, and I said to my father, I think that I saw God. And he laughed, and he patted me on the head, and he picked me up and put me on his lap, and he told me to tell him all about it. So I did, in the best that I could, because my vocabulary was so limited, at that age, at 3. And I think he thought that I had fallen asleep and was dreaming, but I wasn't. Like, my energy was like so hype. My adrenaline was really hype at that moment, and when that happened, and I was still feeling it. And I kept telling him, Daddy, Daddy, God is in my room. God is in my room. Come on, come on. And he wouldn't get up, because, it's hard for people to believe. It really is. But he got up, he went in the room, and a little tear came down my dad's cheek, but he didn't see anything. And I know that even when I ask him today, he says, I didn't see anything there. But he did tell me that he felt a different vibration in the room, something more loving and more innocent and pure. And that's about all he could really comment, on that particular experience because he wasn't there for it. But he did feel that after energy lingering. Now, what was strange is that, when that doorway is open for you, you can't say, okay, hey, I'm open spiritually, psychically now, and you can come through, but you can't, because once that door is open, it's open to everything. It is. If you're at a high vibration, if you have the soul type to match, yes, you'll have benevolent, higher vibrational beings come and visit you. But for the most part, if not, you're going to get all kinds of other spirits that are, more aligned with your vibration and with here where you live. But I do know that when that door opens, you can't say who's to come through, good or bad, because now you're just wide open, period. And whoever's going to try to connect or communicate with you is going to try to do so. So it wasn't long after that. It might have been within that same week, and I'm not sure, and I don't want to lie to you guys or anything, but it was pretty soon after that it was maybe 9 o'clock at night, and I had gone to bed, but I wasn't tired. I never really ever was. I never really was ever tired. I only slept like maybe a few hours here and there when I was like a kid at night, but I was always up at night. I love the nighttime. I really do. I still do. But I remembered, Dad had just, read me a story. He left the room and he put on my nightlight, and there was this feeling of dread that just came into the room. And automatically, like, even now, today, I still do the same thing, just intuitively knew where to look. And we had these closet doors in my bedroom to the closet that were metal, and they kind of open, sliding back and forth. And this dark hand came out of the closet, and it was like this, come here. But it said nothing. And that was it. I was like paralyzed, stunned with fear, and I'm finally screaming, Daddy! And my dad came in, I told him what happened, and he went into that closet like the brave man that he is. Dads are every kid's hero, if you grow up in a home with a father like that. And he inspected, and he didn't find anything, but he definitely didn't like what I was describing, and he picked me up and took me into their room to sleep. And that began everything right there. Those were my very first few experiences that then it just started spiraling and unraveling from that moment forward. So thanks a lot, Gage. This was really interesting telling you all my stories about my psychic experiences. I love you. Namaste.